Good evening. Interestingly, I came across another story from a night auditor about some creepy experiences, and it got me reminiscing. I'm definitely a people person, so it didn't take me long to work my way up the ladder at our hotel. I loved that hotel. It was really old, built in 1967, and despite the shambles it was in when I worked there, it used to be the most happening place in town. The decor was unlike a lot of hotels you see today. Elaborate chandeliers, and imported Spanish tiles, and beautiful handmade stained glass skylights. A lot of people were shocked our rooms were only $50 a night, but it wasn't long before I realized that something was just off about the place. We had this service hallway that connected our kitchen and storage rooms to all of our conference rooms. It was my first day, and I was taking the tour of the facility with my manager while he showed me around. I noticed how it smelled like a nursing home, like mothballs and death. And it was just unnaturally cold, especially for Louisiana in the spring. The deeper we go down the hallway, I actually start to feel sick. I put it off as my nerves, but whatever was in that hallway/kitchen scared me out of my mind a couple of weeks later. I was working the 3 to 11 shift. Around 8 or 9 p.m., I went to finally get some silverware in the kitchen. I was still pretty new there, so after searching for the light switch, I gave up and used my phone as a flashlight to grab the silverware. That's when I noticed the footsteps, really fast footsteps. I started to turn around and someone, or something, ran right past me into the dark, knocking over a stack of chafing dishes on the prep table. Needless to say, I said, "Screw the silverware," and I ran out of there. I ended up calling a housekeeper who stayed in the hotel occasionally to grab it out of the kitchen, but she said nobody was in there. No one who worked there ever wanted to go into that hallway. Even the cook would bring her granddaughter in with her in the morning to keep her company while she got breakfast started. No one ever knew what exactly was back there, but then again, I guess we just didn't want to find out. After the experience, I was sufficiently scared, but curious. I had become friends with our elderly breakfast cook. She was a little old woman, probably in her 70s, we'll call her Mrs. J. She mentioned that she had been working there since the early 70s. She started to tell me stories that made me never look at the hotel the same again. Here's a few stories she told me. The owner was cheap, even when I worked there. He didn't want to purchase actual security cameras for the entire property, so he installed 2 actual cameras in the lobby, one at the entrance to the lobby and one by the pool, but placed mock cameras down the hallways by the rooms, giving the appearance of security when actually they were just plastic boxes. Anyway, one night, a young lady checked in, stinking drunk, by herself and at 1 in the morning. She requested a smoking room, which are only located in the back of the side of the property on the 2nd floor. This area is also one of the many blind spots from our cameras. So, she goes into her room, and nobody hears from her for the rest of the night. Until the housekeepers show up in the morning to find the woman in the parking lot covered in blood and whiskey and bloated. Apparently, after checking in, she continued her binge on the balcony facing the parking lot. She must have fallen off and bled to death in the parking lot. The horrifying part is that she must have been still alive after the fall because of the trail of blood behind her, like she was trying to crawl for help. And because there was no cameras, the front desk was blissfully unaware. We always had problems in that wing of the hotel afterwards. Domestic violent cases always came out of that part. People's tempers just seemed to skyrocket when they stayed there. Another interesting story she told me, and I ended up experiencing. There was a country singer named Charlie Rich who died in one of our suites. Our suites were located inside the actual lobby, facing the front desk. He had had a pulmonary embolism while his wife was eating breakfast in a restaurant. Mrs. J was even there when his wife found him dead. Room 208. Ever since, a lot of customers complained of people knocking on their door at night, but the front desk never saw anybody go up there. One customer came running out in the middle of the night. He ran up to my night auditor and told him that there was a man in his room. Of course, when my NA went to investigate, there was no sign of an intruder. A lot of the time, when the room would stay vacant for a while, the TV would turn on by itself. I even saw it through an open window. It just turned on, and always to the same channel, CMT, channel 71. Charlie really never bothered the staff. I'd even find myself talking to Charlie on our more quiet nights. Sometimes, I even played my old country music playlist for him. I ended up quitting after working there for 5 years. The owner was doing some sketchy things with my paycheck, so I said my final farewell to the hotel I'd grown to love so much. Not even a year after I left, the owner suddenly shut down the hotel. Not sure why, but all the employees were told not to come back the next day, or ever. They left everything in there too. All of the papers, computers, furniture, food, all left inside the massive vacant blood red building.